Freight trains right across this country have stopped as Canada's major railways failed to agree on a new contract for its workers by a midnight deadline. One of the business groups calling for an immediate end to this rail work stoppage is the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. So let's bring in the president, Dan Kelly, to talk more about this. Good morning, Dan. Obviously, this is going to have a huge impact on the economy, on the business community. You and your group calling for the federal government to get involved here. What would you like to see happen?
Look, we can't afford even a short-term outage of our rail service across the country. This is as serious as issues get. Federal government's been sitting on its hands for weeks, and now we're in the lockout period. We need Ottawa to get these workers back to work, introduce binding arbitration, and require an independent arbitrator to make a call on the outstanding issues, or perhaps put in place some form of back-to-work legislation. We've got to get these workers back on the job in order to keep the economy moving. The consequences of inaction are just massive.
I'd also like to know what you're hearing from businesses. I'd imagine they were quite nervous waiting for this midnight strike deadline or lockout deadline. We're officially in the lockout phase of things right now. What were you hearing from business owners waiting to see if this would happen?
Well, for some, they were already seeing the impact of this because, of course, some shippers were already diverting goods away from Canadian ports, and even the railways were refusing to take hazardous goods or perishable goods days in advance of this lockout. But now that it's here, the impact is going to be huge. All that stuff that's sitting on the rails right now is going nowhere. So there are very few alternatives for businesses to take. If you are waiting on some manufacturing inputs and you're running out of them, some business owners, some of our members are telling us that they may have to cease operations in days if they don't get the goods that they need. Others are saying that they're going to be short of stuff very, very fast, and this is going to affect consumers as well. Things like baby food, basic grocery items, and drugstore items. Those are often shipped by rail to some communities, and we're going to be out of them in not that long.
Yeah, we've already heard from many talking about this story this morning, suggesting that we could see empty shelves at the grocery store pretty soon. I'd also like to talk about the impact for farmers. I mean, out west, many of them now starting to harvest their goods, relying on the rail service to transport those goods. What's the impact going to be there?
Agribusiness is going to be one of the first things that is affected by this, because of course there is a degree of some of their products can perish if not shipped in a timely way, and there just isn't enough trucking capacity to be able to pick up the slack. Even the limited capacity that may exist, every single shipper in the entire country is going to be in hot demand of it. And the prices are going to become unaffordable for many. On top of the fact that we were already short of truck drivers and infrastructure in Canada on that front. So there's just not a lot of option. Businesses, many of them, are just going to have to grit their teeth and bear it. And the bad news is that even a short-term job action has longer-term consequences. A one-week lockout could mean 6 to 8 weeks, even if the thing is settled in days.
Yeah, it's so concerning when you hear some of the timelines here we're looking at. Dan Kelly is with the Canadian Federation of Independent Business joining us this morning. Sir, thank you for your time and your take on all this. We'll be in touch.
Anytime.